Welcome to Valmiki Ramayan in English. Let's meet the creator behind it all, Dr. T.K. Bansal. What's so amazing is that he's a blind scientist from the University of Oxford, and he is on a pretty ambitious mission. Basically, he's presenting this ancient story for a whole new generation. He's taking the classic Valmiki Ramayan and turning it into modern English videos.
The whole point is just to make this incredible story accessible to literally everyone.
And you know what? This is actually where you can help out.
It's really simple to support the project. Just like the videos, share, and subscribe.
Seriously, every little bit of engagement helps this amazing vision reach more people.
Imagine for a second that you are on the most critical search and rescue mission in history. You are hopelessly lost in a cursed, completely barren wasteland. The strict, unyielding deadline you were given to complete this mission has just expired.
Yeah.
You are exhausted, starving, and to make matters worse, you have a terrifying boss waiting back home who absolutely does not accept failure.
It's a nightmare scenario.
It really is. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are immersing ourselves in a truly intense narrative sequence to extract some timeless insights. Our source material comes from excerpts of the ancient Indian epic, the Valmiki Ramayana.
Specifically the Kishkindha, chapters 48 to 52.
Right. And the mission for our deep dive today is to explore this dramatic sequence to uncover lessons about extreme resilience, the sheer power of deductive reasoning in desperate situations, and the immense psychological weight of leadership and deadlines. Okay, let's unpack this, because the starting point for the search party sounds brutally harsh. Set the scene for us.
Sure. So we are following a team of elite monkey warriors. They're led by figures like Hanuman and the Crown Prince Angada.
Okay.
Their overarching mission is to scour the southern direction, specifically around the Vindhya Mountains, to find the abducted princess, Sita. But they haven't just wandered into difficult terrain. They have walked into a literal dead zone.
The dead zone.
Yeah. The text describes a vast expanse where absolutely nothing grows.
When you say nothing grows, I mean, are we talking about a typical desert environment or something more severe?
Oh, much more severe. There are no fruits on the trees. There aren't even leaves or flowers. The rivers are completely dried up.
Wow.
It is entirely devoid of life. No buffalo, no deer, no elephants, tigers, or even birds. It is a silent, waterless, terrifying landscape.
That kind of environment would immediately start breaking down a team's morale. I mean, is there a geographical explanation in the text for why this specific area is so dead?
There is, actually. The text gives us very specific and quite tragic reason. It wasn't always a wasteland.
Oh, really?
Yeah. According to the lore, a powerful, truth-seeking sage named Kaand used to live in this forest. He was a man of immense spiritual wealth, but he was also known for being easily angered.
Okay.
Tragically, his 10-year-old son died in that forest. And in his overwhelming grief and rage, this powerful sage cursed the entire ecosystem.
So his personal sorrow literally turned a vibrant environment into an unlivable, shelterless void.
That is the literal interpretation, yes. And from a psychological standpoint, it's a brilliant narrative device. The physical wasteland perfectly mirrors the mental exhaustion and despair of the search party.
Right.
They are wandering through a landscape of crystallized grief while experiencing their own deepening hopelessness.
They are essentially walking through someone else's tragedy while fearing their own. I have to imagine that tension eventually snaps. Do they encounter any active threats in this dead zone, or is it just a battle of attrition against the elements?
Oh, the tension definitely snaps. Amidst all this heavy, creeping despair, they're hacking their way through a particularly dense, terrifying part of the woods.
Yeah.
And they spot a massive demon. The text says he looks like a mountain standing right in front of them, entirely fearless.
Wow.
Given their absolute desperation to find Sita's abductor, Ravana, their minds immediately jump to the worst-case scenario.
I would assume they brace for the fight of their lives. If they think this is the main antagonist, how does the team react?
Well, the demon taunts them, basically saying, "You're all dead today," and charges at them with his fists raised.
Okay, so they're cornered.
Right. The search party tightens their clothes, they brace themselves for this epic, earth-shattering battle, and then Angada, the crown prince, simply steps right up and delivers a single, devastating slap.
Wait, a slap? That's it?
Just one.
Seriously?
Yeah, the demon instantly spits blood, collapses like a shattered mountain, and dies on the spot.
Huh. That is incredibly anticlimactic. I mean, you have all this intense buildup, this terrifying monster, and the crown prince just casually swats him out of existence.
He really does.
I would think a swift, decisive victory like that would send their morale through the roof.
You would think so. But what happens next is telling. They search the nearby caves, find nothing, and just collapse under a tree in total despair. Their morale hits rock bottom.
Why? They just easily defeated a massive threat.
Because the demon wasn't their real problem. Angada and another leader, Gandapadana, have to step up and desperately try to rally the troops. The text emphasizes a critical detail here. The real fear driving this elite team isn't monsters or demons or even the cursed forest itself. The terror keeping them awake at night is their own king, Sugriva.
Tell me more about Sugriva's leadership style. Why are these elite warriors more afraid of their boss than a mountain-sized demon?
Sugriva is painted as an incredibly strict, unforgiving leader. He set a rigid, non-negotiable deadline for this rescue mission.
And deadlines with a toxic boss are no joke.
Exactly. The punishment for failing him or returning empty-handed after the deadline is severe. They are caught between a barren wasteland and a wrathful king. The fear of their leader's punishment is the only thing pushing them back onto their feet.
That really highlights the crushing psychological weight of a hard deadline imposed by an uncompromising boss. You can clear all the immediate obstacles in front of you, but if the overarching pressure is insurmountable, the small victories don't even register.
They're meaningless.
Right. And I understand they eventually hit the ultimate nightmare scenario regarding that deadline.
They do. The deadline set by King Sugriva officially passes. Time is up.
Oh, man.
They are still lost in the Vindhya Mountains. They haven't found a single trace of Sita. They're exhausted, starving, and now they are absolutely terrified for their lives.
So they're out of time, out of food, and expecting the worst. How does a team function when they are pushed past the point of failure?
What's fascinating here is how this moment of absolute despair sets the stage for a brilliant display of deductive reasoning. In high-stress situations, people usually experience cognitive tunneling.
Right, your vision narrows.
Your peripheral vision literally and metaphorically narrows. You stop noticing details. But Hanuman manages to break out of that. They stumble upon a massive, pitch-black, unsealed cave called Rikshabila. It is so dark and terrifying that it's difficult to even look at.
If I am starving, exhausted, and terrified, the last thing I'm doing is walking into an unsealed, pitch-black abyss in a cursed forest.
Most people wouldn't. But Hanuman notices something completely out of place. Flying out of this dark, terrifying cave are swans, cranes, and chakravaka birds.
In a forest where everything is dead and there is no water.
Precisely. And not only are the birds there, but they are physically wet with water, and their wings are dusted with red lotus pollen.
That is a phenomenal detail. It's like a scene from a detective novel.
Yeah.
So Hanuman looks at these wet birds and deduces that despite the intimidating exterior of the cave, there has to be a thriving ecosystem hidden away down there.
It is a profound moment of clarity. He tells the team his deduction. They are dying of thirst, completely out of options. And this observation becomes their only lifeline. They decide to take a massive leap of faith.
How far down do they actually have to go? I can't imagine this is just a quick stroll into a cavern.
The text describes an incredibly tense, terrifying descent. These brave warriors hold onto each other's hands and plunge straight into the pitch-black abyss. They're walking entirely blind for a full yojana.
For you listening, what does a yojana translate to in modern terms?
It's an ancient measurement, but it translates roughly to 8 or 9 miles.
8 or 9 miles of complete sensory deprivation.
Yeah.
Walking into the unknown, driven entirely by Hanuman's deduction and their desperate hope for survival. The level of trust they must have had in him and in each other by physically holding hands is staggering.
The physical act of holding hands as a team while navigating miles of darkness is a powerful metaphor for collective resilience. But the environment eventually changes in a way they could never have anticipated.
Here's where it gets really interesting. They walk for miles in absolute darkness, and then they step out into brilliant, blinding light. But there is no sun in the sky. Can you describe what the text says they find down there?
The visual descriptions in the text are meant to be staggering. It is a subterranean utopia illuminated by its own unimaginable wealth. The entire landscape is made of gold and silver.
Wow.
There are trees like sal, ashoka, and champa, but they are glowing like fire, adorned with golden leaves and resting on platforms made of solid lapis lazuli.
That is a massive sensory overload, especially coming straight from a sensory-deprived, barren wasteland. Are there any signs of life in this golden forest?
Yes. There are crystal clear pools filled with golden lotuses, and swimming inside those pools are golden fish and golden turtles.
That's incredible.
It really is. There are massive silver and gold mansions with windows made of pearl lattices. There are luxurious carpets, mountains of glowing gold, divine honey, massive piles of precious clothing, and the finest foods imaginable. It is a literal paradise hidden deep beneath the earth.
It almost sounds too good to be true. I have to ask, who built an underground city of gold? Is there an ancient civilization living down there?
Not a civilization, but they do encounter someone completely unexpected. Amidst all this unimaginable glowing wealth, they find a single woman.
Okay.
And the contrast is striking. She isn't draped in the gold and jewels surrounding her. She is an ascetic, an old woman wearing humble tree bark and the skin of a black deer.
So you have this jeweled utopia, and the sole inhabitant is dressed in tree bark.
Yes, but the text notes she is glowing with her own intense spiritual power, something known as tapobala.
Let's pause on that. For you listening who might not be familiar with the concept of tapobala, how does that work in the context of this lore?
In ancient Indian philosophy, asceticism and severe penance, known as tapasya, aren't just about self-denial. They are mechanisms for generating tangible cosmic energy.
Oh, interesting.
Right. By renouncing the physical world and meditating intensely, an individual accumulates spiritual merit, or tapobala, which essentially translates to real-world power or magical abilities.
That makes the contrast even more fascinating. She lives in ultimate material wealth, but relies on spiritual wealth. Hanuman approaches her, and I imagine he wants to know exactly where they are.
He is incredibly respectful and asks her who she is and who built this realm. The lore she reveals is a tragic backstory. She tells them this incredible realm was built by a figure named Mayasura, who was the master architect of the Danavas, a race of powerful beings.
An architect of that magnitude doesn't just stumble into building a golden city. What did it cost him to create this?
Mayasura performed 1,000 years of severe, grueling penance to the creator god, Brahma, just to be granted these magical crafting skills. He poured his absolute all into creating this golden forest. But despite his brilliance and his penance, he had a fatal flaw.
Which was?
He had an affair with a celestial nymph, an apsara named Hema.
I sense that didn't go over well with the higher-ups.
It did not. The king of the gods, Indra, struck the master architect down with a thunderbolt in a fit of immense jealousy and rage. After Mayasura's death, Brahma gifted this magnificent golden forest to Hema.
So the architect dies for an indiscretion, and the celestial nymph gets the golden city. Where does the ascetic woman in bark fit into all of this?
Her name is Swayamprava, daughter of Murusavarni. She is simply there guarding this magnificent realm on behalf of her dear friend Hema. She isn't the owner, she's the caretaker.
It's an incredible story to find buried miles beneath the earth, but the search party is still starving. Does Swayamprabha offer them any of that divine food?
She does. She offers the starving team the divine food and water of the realm. They eat, they drink, they recover their physical strength. And this is where Hanuman makes a very calculated leadership decision. He sits down with Swayamprabha and offers her complete transparency.
What does he tell her?
Everything. He tells her their entire story, from the abduction of Sita by Ravana to their alliance with King Sugriva. He lays all his cards on the table, admitting they have missed their deadline, they are completely trapped, out of time, and absolutely terrified of what their king will do to them.
Why would Hanuman, a mighty warrior, admit such profound failure to a complete stranger? That seems like a massive risk.
It is a risk, but it's also a masterclass in diplomacy when you have zero leverage. Radical honesty and vulnerability disarm the guardian. Instead of posturing, he appeals to her empathy.
That makes sense.
And that vulnerability is met with a terrifying truth. Swayamprabha listens to their plight and then reveals the ultimate catch of this golden utopia.
I knew there had to be a catch. What is it?
She tells them, very plainly, that no one who enters this cave ever leaves alive. It is a one-way trip.
That is a brutal psychological blow. They survived the cursed forest, they held hands and walked miles through a pitch-black abyss. They finally found food and water, only to realize they are permanently trapped. The paradise is actually a prison.
But Swayamprabha isn't without mercy. She is deeply moved by their desperate situation and the honesty with which Hanuman spoke to her. She realizes the importance of their mission to find Sita.
So she decides to help.
Right. Relying on that immense spiritual merit we discussed earlier, her tapobala, she agrees to help them achieve the impossible. She will get them out.
How does an old woman in tree bark evacuate an entire army of monkey warriors from a subterranean trap?
She has one very specific, very strange condition. She tells them they must all close their eyes. She explicitly states that it's completely impossible to leave the golden cave with their eyes open.
They have to surrender their vision again. They just walked miles in the dark, and now to escape the light, they have to blind themselves voluntarily.
It requires a final absolute surrender of control. They have to trust her implicitly. The warriors cover their eyes with their hands, and the text says, in the blink of an eye, the magic of the ascetic takes hold. They are teleported.
Can you describe what they see when they are finally allowed to open their eyes?
The reveal is incredibly dramatic. They open their eyes, and the golden walls, the glowing trees, the silver mansions, they're all completely gone. Swayamprabha has returned to the depths of the earth. The team finds themselves standing in the warm sunlight.
Just like that.
Just like that. They look around and see the peaks of the Vindhya and Prasravana mountains behind them. But right in front of them, stretching out to the horizon, is the vast, crashing, immense expanse of the ocean.
They bypassed the rest of the mountain range entirely. They went from being buried alive to standing at the very edge of the world.
The emotional whiplash of this entire sequence is staggering. They are back at a starting line, but a completely new one.
So what does this all mean? We just followed this team from a cursed dead forest, through the paralyzing fear of a toxic boss, down a pitch-black abyss, into an underground paradise that turned out to be a trap, and finally teleported to the edge of the ocean. It is an unbelievable journey.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the relevance for you listening to this right now is profound. We all face our own versions of that dead forest.
Absolutely.
Periods of intense burnout, landscapes where nothing seems to grow, and the crushing weight of terrifying, unforgiving deadlines that make us feel like we are out of options.
Navigating that kind of pressure requires serious cognitive discipline. When you are in that dark place, survival requires breaking out of the tunneling effect. It requires looking for those wet birds flying out of the darkness, those small, unexpected signs of life or solutions that everyone else is too exhausted to notice.
And once you spot those clues, you have to be willing to take a leap of faith. You have to hold on to your team and walk blindly into the unknown, trusting that there is sustenance and a way forward.
But the way they finally escaped that impossible situation really sticks with me. It wasn't by fighting harder.
No, it wasn't. This raises an important question, and it's a thought I want to leave you with today. Think about Swayamprabha's one unyielding condition for their escape. They had to close their eyes.
Yeah.
When we face impossible situations, our instinct is usually to stare harder at the problem, to try and logic our way out with our eyes wide open, analyzing every single variable. But the search party could only escape by covering their eyes, trusting a guide, and completely surrendering their illusion of control.
Which is so hard to do.
Exactly. So think about the golden cave of Mayasura. It was a paradise that saved them from starvation, but it was also a trap where no one leaves alive. It nearly made them forget their ultimate mission.
Yeah, that's true.
What are the golden caves in your own life? Are you currently resting in a comfortable, beautiful place that is secretly keeping you from opening your eyes and facing the vast, daunting ocean of your true purpose? What problems are you staring at so intensely that you're actually blinding yourself to the solution? Are there moments where the only way forward is to intentionally close your eyes, let go of the need to see every step, and trust the dark space between where you are and where you need to be?
That is an incredibly powerful thought to mull over. Sometimes the solution requires us to stop looking at the trap and surrender to the leap. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the Ramayana. We hope you walk away with a new perspective on resilience, observation, and knowing when to close your eyes. Until next time.
Jai Shri Ram.